Well, this seems familiar. Tom blearily blinked his eyes open. His head hurt like all hell, but it was more of a tired, worn-out pain, as if his head was full of soup and had been battered to hell and back, which he guessed wasn't too far from the truth. He was still thoroughly secured in Jackie's arms as she was playing Big Spoon, her steady breath blowing past his ear. She was not the one doing the snoring, though, for once. There would be the little bundle of cuteness in front of him, which he concluded must be Kieran, who was sleeping happily curled up in the mattress. His head hurt, but he could actually put a thought together now. He could think. It was semi-clear at best, but it was better. And as he looked around, he could actually see. He could even remember the last time he woke up, at least blurrily. It was still dark, so he guessed it had not been a very long nap. Improvement. Fucking glorious. Maybe it really is real this time, he pondered to himself hopefully. As far as he could tell, it sure seemed like it. He gave the little guy a neck rub as a quick glance around confirmed he was still in the bedroom, and they were actually alone at the moment. At least as far as he could see. Judging by the light, it was still bumfuck early in the day. Or late, he guessed. He didn't want to bother thinking about it. He just kept petting Kieran nice and gently, hoping the kid wouldn't wake up. He got away with it for a surprising amount of time too, and it really helped to just keep focused on the little guy, as he lay there waiting for something strange to happen. A hand reaching out from under the bed, a piece of the roof coming down. He eyed the darkness at the corner of the room suspiciously, but rather than growing, it receded ever so slowly, as the sun started to rise. Bumfuck early it is then. Marvellous, he sighed, tucking the blanket a bit closer to him and moving Kieran in with it. The little guy let out a mighty yawn, all the little chops on full display. Tom stopped the delicate maneuver before the kid stopped moving again, then just pulled him in close, wrapping up the blankets as tight as he could get them right now. Only after he did so did he stop and consider he could move his right arm now. He had been completely stuck before, as if in sleep paralysis, but now he could move. He just let out a sigh of relief. As he lay there, staring at the wall, he remembered the last thing Jackie had said before he apparently fell back asleep last time. What did she mean, Papa did? What did I do? He tried to think back to the ad hoc council he had put together after working out he could make memories of people manifest. How did Jelena make it in there and not anyone else? Also, how on earth did ABBA work? He grew a little somber, thinking back to his father. He had been dead for years. Hell, he had died even before all of his squad mates. He didn't know if he was happy he got to see them all one last time, at least in some sense. Could they really have been the real ones? No. He remembered the questioning. They were nothing but memories, sad as that was. But he had still gotten to see both of his parents one last time. And not the stricken, sick versions either. They had been healthy. Happy even. He pulled a slight smile despite the headache, as his eyes got a little wet again. But that begged the question. Was the Jelena he talked with real? She did certainly seem like it. I am going to have to ask her. If she remembers then. Oh boy, if she does. Jackie, you up yet? He tried in a low, careful voice. If nothing else, he could really do with a painkiller right now. There was no immediate reply aside from another slow, steady breath rushing forth from her snout. Jackie, please. Maybe just a glass of water or something? Don't wake her, I will fetch it. The recognizable voice of Shiva came from somewhere behind him. Tom swallowed once as he heard the floor squeak under the weight of someone getting up and starting to move around the room. He didn't move a muscle after that as he waited. Is this good? Is it bad? Is she angry? Why would she be angry? She's a woman, Tom, they don't need a reason. Fuck, I'm right. She didn't sound mad. Then again, she usually doesn't unless she's trying to kill someone. She didn't sound happy either. Just play it cool. It's fine. She won't hurt Jackie, and Jackie ain't going nowhere. This is fine. Tom's little thinking session came to an end as Shiva walked into view, squatting in front of him as he lay there looking at her, perfectly still. Here, you need this, she went, reaching out a hand holding a small cup of what he presumed to be water. Tom still struggling to read if she seemed happy, mad, or anything really. She just sounded indifferent. He carefully extracted a hand from under the blanket to take the cup, and twisted his head to try and drink with some success. At least he didn't spill any of the cold water on Kieran. So then, how are you doing? Shiva asked plainly, looking at him while still squatted down beside the bed. Head hurts like fuck, and I'm rather confused. Jackie says you hit her while you were elsewhere, Shiva replied, sounding perfectly calm still. I what? Tom questioned, finding himself cursing his raised voice as his head throbbed. You do not remember? I don't know, I'm sorry, Tom replied, as heartfelt as he could manage for the headache. He still felt like shit too, sore and stiff all over at the same time. I understand. She tells me you chose her to be your old leader. Even when not with her, she valued my daughter. He was a wise man, no? Morton? Definitely. A bit calmer, Tom responded carefully, as he saw Shiva's brow furrow just a smidge. He was a good man. Very good. You'll need this too, I believe, she replied, putting a single recognizable pill on the mattress in front of him before getting back up. Tom snatched it and quickly swallowed it, washing it down with more water. Rest. We'll need your strength, she continued, seemingly turning to leave. Wait, Tom squeaked out, once he had the pill down. Shiva coming to a halt and turning her head to look back at him curiously, raising an eyelash. What happened to the Inquisitor? You won. She was carried off defeated. Aside from this, we know nothing. What do you mean defeated? Tom pleaded, starting to feel a knot form in his stomach as he stared at the imposing woman. She fainted. Surely this means she was defeated. I have heard of such battles in stories. It is rare for the mind reader to fail. They often face an untrained mind, and she calls you weak of will. Well done. Tom wasn't entirely sure, but she sounded genuinely impressed right now. He even spied a bit of a grin on her face. Now I must leave you two. I have heard rumors the Artificer wishes to work upon your weapons. I will make sure no harm is done, so sleep. That is an order. Yes, ma'am, Tom simply replied, not sure what else to say as Shiva turned her head back to the door, walking out and shutting it behind her. He just felt the knot release as he sagged a little in Jackie's arms. Holy shit, dude. The fuck have you just done? And what is Adita up to? Oh no. She has Tink as well. This is going to be a long day, Saf grumbled to herself, still a touch sleepy. She found herself once more in the workshop, where the soon-to-be totally disassembled machine gun was being examined and measured up once more. Shiva was here as well this morning, though she was the opposite of talkative. She had found the original drawings Tom had made of the gun for them, though. Said human was apparently up and kicking, at least in some sense. Dakota had told them all at breakfast that Tom had woken up again last night. After Saf had left, Tom and Jelena had remained unmoving for hours. It had been far from calm, though, both of them attempting to talk in their sleep like they were in a trance, which Saf guessed they sort of were. Tom had started to sweat, despite not being warm at all according to Jackie, while he writhed and twisted. More than once he had broken out screaming in pain. Dakota described it almost like a battle of the minds had been taking place, and it would seem Tom had emerged victorious when the Inquisitor fainted into a heap, having to be carried off, leaving the human out cold but still breathing. Pauline had seen to the Inquisitor, taking her to one of the provided guest rooms and shutting the doors. They still knew nothing of how she was doing, meaning she was probably not with them yet. Saf had heard the guards chatting on if she might have kicked the bucket burning magic like that, but she had a feeling they would likely be seeing Pauling if that was indeed the case. She was also confident that if something important was being discussed in that room, they would all know soon enough, since she was certain Kakashi wasn't getting much sleep either as of late. As it stood, there was not a single member of the Inquisition at breakfast save Adita. Nearly all of their number were in the cave or with a drill for the moment. Still, it was an odd sight to see that, for the time being at least, their keep seemed devoid of those scheming assholes. Of course, they still had trader escorts from Archeon and Galaxa here, so the tables were far from empty. As breakfast had come to an end, she had a brief chat with Dakota. It was clear Saf was to carry on as the impromptu oversight for their technically inclined trio for the time being. Apparently knowing how to make the gun keep firing didn't mean you knew not to stick your finger in a blitzgel container, or eat it, much to her dismay. Saf had done a good enough job of not blowing anything or anyone up, or spontaneously lighting on fire or something, and she at least knew most of Tom's safety warnings and had enough brains to heed them. Hence she was Dakota's best pick to keep things running safely and smoothly for now. Not like it would be very hard work either. The people involved were more than eager to get something done. She knew that from last night. She just hoped she wouldn't be held responsible for any fuck-ups that might occur, while she was looking the other way. Rodexia had been delegated to other duties today, which was probably good, as the workshop was already getting a little crowded with this many people, as well as gun parts strewn all around the place. At least Shiva was here too, so Saf wouldn't be the only responsible woman present. Aditya was comparing back and forth between the drawings and the real weapon, as the solutions for how to keep the weapon cool took shape in front of them. Tink provided the ideas, with Junior toning them down to a reasonable level. Shiva and the knowledge of what they could make at the keep, and Aditya the technical expertise of what systems had already been developed for this purpose. All in all, it was running remarkably smoothly. The results had been several different options, and the more they worked, the faster they managed to put together ideas, ranging from the basic, to the outlandish, to the downright strange. Saf had no idea how the water evaporating could run a pump to put more water in the barrel. It sounded like some sort of perpetual motion machine, which Tom had made very clear wasn't possible. Still, Aditya insisted it had already been done, and she was not making it up. Saf had lost the plot completely when she started talking about turning the steam back into water by running it through some copper pipes with thin metal sheets on them, but Tink had certainly been all ears. The idea wasn't shut down until Shiva pointed out that it would not only weigh much more than Tom's original idea of just using more water, but it would also cost a fortune and be rather fragile. Tink had reluctantly conceded, but Aditya was not slowed in the slightest, as she soon cooked up yet another way to solve the problem. Her enthusiasm was somehow still growing, which honestly baffled Saf even more. It's like a Lancaster but for machines. Alin already finds this stuff amazing. Aye, aye, aye. But what if we simply use Tom's design and make the jacket thinner? Junior had finally suggested, after yet another idea. This time involving mixing frost powder with the propellant, in order to cool down the charge. It was an idea that apparently even Aditya had no idea if it was even feasible, though it was also shot down, this time for having too large a risk of something catastrophic destroying the precious weapon. Then it would still overheat, but it would take longer, Shiva conceded. Doesn't matter if it keeps seizing. Then we just use a smidge of frost powder to keep the water cool. I can make a clockwork dispenser for it. When the weapon gets too hot, pull a lever and powder is added, or perhaps a mere button push, Aditya offered with a nod, seeming quite confident, even if Saf doubted how much of it was just enthusiasm. But then we still run the risk of it freezing solid, right? Saf tried, feeling here she could at least partake in the discussion, and maybe try and rein them in a bit. Only if added to cold water. We may need circulation, though. It would reduce the chances dramatically. It would also help keep the barrel a uniform temperature. It might warp if it gets too hot in one place. Then we are back at the pump again, Shiva grumbled. Is there nothing for that? We could drive it magically. Or what about the recoil of the gun? The bolt goes back and forth. That could easily drive a piston. It already struggles when it gets a bad round. We would need better made ammunition, Shiva countered, shaking her head and crossing her arms. Could we increase the recoil somehow? The excess would need to be absorbed to save the receiver, though. Or you could just put Balathon's lizard in a little wheel and have him run it, Saf interjected with a bit of a chuckle, doing little squeaky sounds like she would expect a little wheel like that to make. Shiva clearly got the joke, rolling her eyes and providing no further comment. Ting let out a bit of a huff, seemingly rather amused. Would he not just get scared and try to run away? It seems wrong to use the fact that it is scared of the gun to drive the gun, Aditya then replied, clearly putting serious thought into the idea, even if she did not seem happy with it. Nope. No, it was a joke, Saf tried to clarify, raising her hands. Ooh, sorry, Aditya responded, a little slack-eared and looking a touch nervous. Yeah, who would even suggest that? Silly me. It'd be too late too, I'm sure. Yeah. Anyway, what about just a little handle you guys have to turn a few times, then back to shooting? Surely that wouldn't be too bad. Not like Jarvis's gun has to fire for that long at a time. And the insignificant recoil leading to jamming could just be fixed by putting a proper man behind the gun. Or even better, a proper woman, Shiva added with a stern nod. Rodexia is too small and weak. He struggles to pull the handle back. Be nice now, Shiva, Saf tried, even if she did sort of agree with the smith there. The kid was indeed young, quite young actually, and he was only supposed to be acting as ground crew for Jarrex. Also, not really a fix, just makes it less of a problem. Good enough. I say in future a proper guard or huntress will man the weapon, else Zarko will do. Get it cool and trust the gunner. What about checking the ammunition? Junior suggested, looking around at them with a shrug. Where Tom is from, it's not a problem, clearly. How would you check it without firing it? They are sealed, Shiva questioned, the young inventor shrinking a bit under her gaze.
You could weigh them, Edita offered, clearly hoping she was being helpful. Or perhaps create a better test for the powder. I could test it just by touching it.
Shiva just grumbled a bit, scratching her cheek, seeming to struggle to find a problem with that. We do weigh them, but the bullets are not the same either. The copper cladding is difficult.
I have brought some very fine scales, perhaps they will help. I would love to assist in producing this holy round.
Saf choked just a little at the mention of holy, but other than that she couldn't see a fault in the plan. They had expended quite a lot of ammunition during the last battle, and since the Inquisitorial delegation's arrival they had all had the raw materials they could ask for. They needed to get production back underway. And not just on the ammunition, she noted, looking to the half-finished shotgun sitting and standing in the corner, having been set aside for now to make room for the machine gun's disassembly.
More hands are always needed around here,
Tink added enthusiastically, with a huge smile on his face.
Perhaps I should show you how we turn down the items with the shotguns. Once Shiva has made the required forgings,
he hastily amended, throwing a slightly nervous glance at the smith.
I will resume work today. My forge has been reorganized with the many gifts I have received. Thank you, Artificer,
Shiva replied, as she given Edita a slight bow. Saf being left grumbling a bit. She'd never bowed to me before.
I want to do all of it. I don't know how much time I will have, though.
Wait, are you going with Jelena too? Saf questioned, looking at the Artificer. She hadn't heard anything about that yet.
What? No. But mastering such a machine must surely take years.
Tink and Junior just coughed a bit. Tink clawing at the floor as the clearly confused Edita turned to look at them.
Tom taught me in a few weeks at most, but there is still much to learn, I'll grant you that,
Tink replied, still looking at the ground.
That is incredible. Are the machines so well made they can be operated by children even then?
Now, hold on, Saf objected, raising a hand. No talk about child labour. Tom is a bit touchy on that one.
But they help with the ammunition, no?
Yes, but that is mostly just running around with all the little bits we need.
But that includes explosives, though?
Edita questioned, seemingly not finding anything overly wrong with having kids perform that kind of work. Saf had to admit that as long as it wasn't too hard work, she didn't have that much of a problem either, but Tom sure did. Tink responded to the Artificer's question by having a further fit of coughing. Edita walking over to him and giving him a few sturdy pats on the back.
Now, your service is not over yet. Oleg still has need of your work.
Aye, Saf just sighed to herself, throwing a glance at Shiva, who was for once looking a touch uncomfortable as she shrugged.
What can you do? Jarl Smith dismissed, looking back to the Artificer. I started learning my craft when I was no more than 6 years old. Even if I did just blow in the fire at times. Ooh, you do know that doesn't help much, right? You need more air than lungs can give, unless you have many, I guess,
Edita replied, expression turning to one of pondering, as she started thinking on that last conclusion. Hey, Edita, when did you start becoming an Artificer? Were you chosen or something? I never heard of anyone talking about becoming that before. Well, unless you count clockmakers or stuff like that. Junior then tried, in a happy, optimistic tone, clearly not overly comfortable with the current subject. The room got very quiet as they all looked at the young man. Couldn't you just not dig, dude? What if she doesn't want to talk about it? Saf grumbled to herself, though her fears were seemingly unfounded, as the Artificer took a second to think before happily answering.
Oh no, I was born to be one. They did give me a bit of a... what did Essie call it? Pep talk? Sure, pep talk on how it is outside. When you were born, right, you had a family? Mum, dad, siblings, maybe friends, all that stuff?
The young man just stared at the woman for a sec or two, throwing a quick guilty look at Saf, as he seemingly worked out why they had all been staring at him. Yeah, something like that, Junior replied. Saf caught Tink looking away a bit, the smile fading from his face, as Junior just scratched the back of his head. What did you have?
Oh, I had classmates and masters. Don't worry, it was very fun. We got to play with all these toys and things, getting to learn to read all kinds of strange scripts and runes. And it wasn't like we had to. Those who weren't so good at it got to go somewhere else.
Oh, was all Junior got out in reply, as Saf narrowed her eyes at the Artificer. Do you know where they went exactly?
I mean, some of them, sure. I even got to work on a few. Glass, for example. She got banged up quite a few years back. But you are not a healer? Shiva questioned, apparently joining in Saf's suspicion. No, left arm, Edita replied with a big smile. Don't tell me you can't see it.
See what? Saf had to ask, tilting her head. I've seen her arms, they look quite normal to me.
Wow! Tink? Adita tried, seemingly baffled by this news, looking over to the inventor.
Don't look at me. I only got to see her once or twice, and she likes that cloak of hers.
Ha! Adita let out, with a bit of a nod, like she had just been proven wrong. Jelena was right. Her arm isn't hers, it's just illusion magic. It's all made out of metal. Very fine work, if you ask me. I still don't understand why she hides it so much.
What in the devil do you mean? Sap broke out, flabbergasted. Adita taken a step back in surprise, clearly not having expected the outburst.
It's a metal arm,
the artificer squeaked out defensively.
Wait, should I not have said that? I don't think they told me not to say that. I know Glaz doesn't like it that much, but I think it is very pretty. Much stronger, too.
Her arm was replaced with one of metal. How is this possible? Shiva questioned, as Saf changed tack to try and calm the spooked artificer back down again. Tinkin Jr. just stared at her, then each other.
It is a relic. It was crafted to her after she lost her original arm years back. I don't know more than that. I promise I just performed the rituals of maintenance upon it.
Fucking hell, Saf just let out, shaking her head. I guess Balathon should have gone to work for the Inquisition then. Well, Tom considered the world to be on the mend at the moment. The painkillers had helped with his headache, and he even managed to conscript Ray to get him some more when she came by with breakfast. He had only left the bed for a quick piss before returning to the warm and cosy sheets, where he had both Jackie and Kieran for company. He had decided against any phones or laptops this morning, likely wouldn't help with his remaining headache. For the most part, he had just slept the day away, which had worked until the kid could seemingly sleep no more. He had unfortunately refused to leave, though, so Tom and Jackie, well, mostly just Jackie, had to put up with the energetic kid running around. The two of them had made a rather nice pillow fort. Jackie had told some stories, and Tom had even joined in with a few of his own before dozing off again. He was woken up again by his stomach informing him it was time for food of some description. Jackie was laying with him, acting as the big spoon again, though he didn't honestly believe she was actually sleeping. Most likely, she was just enjoying the warmth and the fact she didn't have to do any back-breaking work right now. There was no Kieran to be seen, though. Tom guessed someone must have come for him during his little midday nap time. The quiet tranquility in the room was broken by Tom's rebellious stomach as it rumbled quite loudly. Jackie's left ear poked up and she let out a slight giggle before she turned it towards the door.
I think your stomach may be psychic too, Tom, she mused,
not moving yet as Tom also started hearing footsteps approaching outside. Tom looked over just as the handle turned and the door slowly opened, the burn-scarred head of Dakota poking his way inside. Oh, good, you're up. I have dinner if you are hungry.
Sweet,
Jackie let out as she yawned. Definitely, Tom just replied, as he and Jackie moved about a bit on the bed, going to sit up against the wall, Jackie providing a wing to hold him close still. Dakota did her best to navigate the pillow fort, but some remodeling was still needed to make room as she set down the plates of food on their laps. Raoul thought maybe you could use a beer. What do you think? Let's save that for when we're sure it is actually gone, he replied in a low, considering tone. He really could do with an ice cold beer right now, that was for certain, but probably best not to. But you are feeling better. This does not seem like the last time you woke up following one of her sessions. I have not seen anything yet, I'm quite sure, and the pills help me with a headache. But then again, those are another reason to hold off on the beer. I see. Pauline has informed me that Jelena has woken up as well. She believes the Inquisitor will need some time before she is ready to talk, Dakota said, with a rather strained expression, like she didn't quite know if that was good or bad yet. Did she get a taste of her own medicine and go full cuckoo? Questioned Jackie. Tom feeling quite sure she was hoping the answer was yes. I do not know exactly, but what Kakashi heard was certainly disturbing. Tom just raised an eyebrow as both he and Jackie looked at the gilded Huntress, standing by the side of the bed. There was some screaming and yammering, Dakota finally relented, and a lot of incoherent babbling. Some of it not in Draconic. Some of it sounded like singing, almost. Her rendition was quite poor, but Essie claimed it sounded familiar. At least somewhat. Not ABBA, right? Tom asked despairingly, thinking back to his dad's impromptu torture technique. He still had no idea if who he had talked to was actually Jelena inside his own mind, but if she was trying to replicate a Swedish pop group in her seemingly deluded state, that did at least confirm that part had actually happened. I'm afraid I do not know. I will ask Esmeralda later. Right. About the whole puppet thing? Tom asked cautiously, not quite sure how to approach that subject. It was quite disturbing. Dakota cut him off with an expression belying that. Yeah, she certainly believed that statement.
You mean cathartic, right?
Jackie interjected with a rather cruel smile. Dakota staring unamusedly at her for a second before turning back to Tom. We still have not worked out how that might have been possible. Linkata and Apuma know of a spell which should be able to dominate a mind, but that is dark magic. Very dark. And not something they know how to do, merely that it exists. Though it is possible to imitate the effect to some extent using magics like what Fengi possesses. You don't think I can, what did you call it? Domineer, and no. They agree it seems unlikely in the extreme, but there is no denying that something happened, and it was not natural.
Maybe Norik decided enough was enough,
Jackie smirked, taking a bite of what looked like chicken wings, but was probably some other kind of bird. Sadly, I doubt we have drawn the attention of the god of justice. Inviting as the thought may be, Dakota sighed, shaking her head a bit.
Then what about Tula?
Who's that one again? Tom had to ask. Dakota biting her lip for a sec before looking at him and answering. God of war and retribution. I guess this could be seen as retribution for what she did to you, knowingly or not.
Oh, she knew. She just didn't care. That's why she didn't want anyone in there when she did it the first time,
Jackie snarled, her snout actually wrinkling as she picked out another chicken wing looking thing.
We don't know that, Jackie. And even if she did know, I believe it is safe to say it went further than she had planned. Or she would be walking around right as rain, giving orders in my keep,
Dakota replied, with a hint of reluctance in her voice, clearly not overly pleased with defending the Inquisitor. Jackie just grumped a bit and went back to eating. What do you think their response will be, once they get their shit together? Tom tried, hoping Dakota had the situation worked out a bit better than he did. Hard to say when we don't know how she will fare. Pauline didn't seem worried, but I am starting to believe she might think the Inquisitor can actually piss excellence, the Gilded Huntress grumbled, all three of them staring a bit. Yeah, she's had it with these arseholes, Tom concluded, taking a bite for himself. Almost tastes like dark, this one. Do keep me posted. I'm not that out of it. As you wish, Dakota replied with a nod, turning to leave. Oh, one sec, Tom broke out as she was opening the door again. What's been going on in the workshop and such? Dakota sighed a bit before closing the door, turning back to him. Sapphire is keeping an eye on them as well as Shiva. I do not believe we need to worry too much. They're working on your machine gun. Something about calling it and stopping it from jamming. Oh. Well, I guess that's better than making bombs, Tom said, trying to sound light-hearted. Quite, Dakota agreed with a nod, opening the door once more. Enjoy your meal. I'm sure Ray will come by to pick up the plates in a bit.